You're watching Betting Weekly Fight Life on the Bet Rivers Network.
Welcome to Betting Weekly Fight Life. I'm your host, Kyle Andrew, joined once again by resident fight expert, Mr. Paul Hughes. Paul, the UFC returns to the Apex this weekend, UFC Vegas 111. Not the biggest name recognition on the card, but you know what happens in the Apex, you can't expect finishes.
Exactly. The small cage plays like such a big dynamic,
Yeah,
which I
it does.
don't think people take into account as much as they should. But like a lot of these fights where you get things unders and you get doesn't go the distance, or people are finished props, like they're a lot more prevalent in the Apex because there's not a lot of place to run. And I think there's a fight on this card, particularly I think you've wrote about on the inside of that. You know, it could be a bit low output, but in the Apex, you kind of force the exchange. So that's a good thing about the Apex.
Exactly the logic there. There's just not as much room to hide, as you say. And not that all fighters are interested in doing that, but that is part of the strategy in the smaller octagon. Makes for a very different dynamic, even for the viewer, just from the way it sounds. Like we all got used to that when the world was shut down for a while. Hearing fights without the noise of 20,000 people is a totally different dynamic, and it can make for very exciting TV. So why don't we pop right into the main event of the first of the night? Gabriel Bonfim versus Randy Brown. This is a pretty interesting one. What are you seeing on this fight, Paul?
Yeah, the first thing I'm seeing is just look how long Randy Brown is. Like, just look at how long he is. But yeah, this fight, it's a pretty fun fight. I think there's a lot of different ways it can actually go because Bonfim at the end of the day, he is a grappler first. Gabriel Bonfim, his brother's also on this card, which we'll get to later, but he's a grappler. He's gonna try and take you down. He's going to try and submit you, and he's going to try and get control time. He kind of did that to Wonderboy in his last fight, but again, he kind of, second and third round comes, he starts slowing down, and the tides start changing, and that's kind of been the story of Gabriel Bonfim. But I think going in this 5-round fight, seen a lot of his training in social media, he's been posting clips, and so it looks like he's going he wants to be more ready to go 5 rounds, and I think that's going to come with starting slower than normal. And I think that's kind of the recipe he has to go for because he will not be able to go 5 rounds. But with the way he fights round 1, he's kind of gassed himself out in every single one of his fights if he hasn't got the finish. And we saw that against Dalby. We saw the tides changing against Wonderboy. So, he kind of might be a bit low output the first round or so. And Randy Brown, he's good everywhere. I was right in, I think he has exactly I think he has 6 losses in the UFC, 2 a sub, 2 a KO, 2 a decisions, and then his wins are like all evenly split between KO, submissions, and decisions. Like as well rounded as it goes, you can just read it off the stats. But he's a good boxer. He's good he's decent off his back. He's got good jiu-jitsu. Like he's long and rangy. As I said, if you just look at this for the division, he is huge. Like his physique and everything. Like he is going to cause problems for Bonfim while it's on the feet. I think the story of this fight is Bonfim's cardio and Randy Brown's submission defense. And there's a lot of different ways it could go, as I said. So, yeah, it's a fun one.
Yeah, Bonfim comes into this fight with 3 straight wins, and Brown has won 4 of his last 5. One of the questions that people are asking online and stuff is whether or not Brown can deal with the grappling of Bonfim. But I think you pretty much just answered that he can because he is well enough rounded. It's not like he can match him on the ground, but he doesn't necessarily need to. He needs to defend it, right? And that's going to be a huge part of his strategy to get back up to his feet and take advantage of that reach.
Yeah, he kind of wasn't getting finished by people who, the better grapplers he's fought. He doesn't really get submitted by them because I think he's kind of expecting it. And then when he doesn't, like he got Rene choked by JDM, which I think was kind of an awakening because no one knew how good JDM's grappling game really was at that time. And I think when Brown's going in this camp and he's drilling this consistently, going for Bonfim, and I think he'll be able to survive on the ground because we know Bonfim is going to land takedowns at some point. He's just gonna. That's his whole game. But on the feet, I think Bonfim's going to need to takedowns because I think Randy Brown's just going to be picking him apart on the feet. But something I like as well, I think Bonfim, if he's not gassed, his chin's good. Wonderboy's hitting him with big head kicks. He's mixing up a lot. And if he's not completely death gassed, he's going to be able to take those shots. And I don't see Bonfim landing a KO punch from Randy Brown on the feet. So I think of a low output fight, while Bonfim kind of builds not just destroys his cardio. It could come out this bet I like could come out like silly if Bonfim just ragdolls him and gasses out the start round 2, or ragdolls him and finishes him. But I think Brown's defensively sound enough on the mat. I think Bonfim is going to take his time a bit more as well. But I think the over 2.5. I think if this fight was a 3-round fight, this would be even shorter. And now I expect Bonfim to be even more patient because it's a 5-round fight. So I don't really get the line at over 2.5 at -129. I think this fight goes to. I think I was looking at a big price and fight goes to the decision as well. I think it was like +220, and I can see that as well. The only way that doesn't is if, again, I don't see Randy Brown getting subbed here. I know I've said this a lot, and it's going to sound dumb if he does, but the way he defends his position, I think Bonfim's a great positional jiu-jitsu artist, gets to his positions well, but in the UFC, I think he gets struggles against these long, like Wonder Boy on the mat. He's big and he's like long. He can kind of defend these positions, kind of like Randy Brown. And Wonder Boy's only got finished by these top guys. I think Randy Brown's the same. Like his losses are to top guys as well in the submission department. I mean, we're talking about JDM, the current champion, and then the other one was early in his career. You know, he's been improving since then. He's had a long camp, known as Bonfim. He's going to be drilling this for the submissions, and I think this is going to be an extended fight. And unlike last week where I said it's going to be a complete two-sided war, I think this could be a bit more cagier. But I think Randy Brown at +150 is also a good pick if anyone likes that. I think the longer this goes, the better it looks. But my overall bet is just the over 2.5 rounds, -129. I think that's a great look.
Yeah, when I was looking at the odds on this one, Paul, I was having a little trouble pulling out something that I found favorable, because I was looking at the fight distance, because it really is a case of each of these guys kind of cancel out the other guy's strength to enough of a degree. Basically, Brown has the advantage on the feet, but Bonfim has such a good chin, which he proved against Wonder Boy. He's a much better grappler, but Randy Brown can definitely defend that. So it's really going to come down to, I think, what you said. Has Bonfim developed a game plan to not gas himself out early? And going into a 5-round fight, how long can he last? But I think it is going to be a strategic type of fight. And I really actually like the pick of to go over 2.5 rounds at -129, because, you know, I also take a look at Randy Brown at +150 to just win outright. I don't hate that either, but I think your bet's a safe bet, and I think it's the right one.
Yeah, I don't think he was able to get it going. He wasn't able to get the finish against Wonder Boy. We bet Gabriel Bonfim not to win by finish in that last fight as well. If you remember that, but it was like even money for him not to win by finish against Wonder Boy. Yeah. And you know, Wonder Boy's, you know, he's kind of like Randy Brown in the same sense on the mat. So I think this is going to get extended. And Randy Brown's not super hugely powerful, and Bonfim's got a good chin. So yeah, I just see this one going long.
All right, well, if you like what you hear on our show, sign up for our newsletter. Get exclusive tips in the free Insider magazine. Sign up for free at bettingweeklystudios.com. Let's just hop right into the next fight here, Paul. This one's interesting to me because I'm not certain it should be the co-main event on this card, but it is. Matt Schnell versus Joseph Morales. What are you seeing on this one?
Matt Schnell's a legend in this from that Sumiderji fight, I think it was. He got absolutely destroyed for like a round and a half and then just somehow won. It was one of the best fights ever. But Matt Schnell +320 here, and I think it's pretty fair, to be honest.
Yeah.
His chin's gone. Like, it's completely gone. He gets hurt in every fight. He can't defend a takedown. But at the same time, he's so skilled. Like, on the feet, he's going to beat you up. And if he gets on top, he's got submission game. He's got everything to his arsenal. But his takedown defense and his chin are both very poor. And that's two of the biggest parts of the game, unfortunately, for Matt Schnell. I mean, he's been put out cold a couple times. That Usyk fight was kind of insane.
Paul, let me back up what you're saying with some data here for the viewers. Schnell is 7-7 in the UFC with 1 no contest. Schnell is coming off of a win, but had been finished in 3 straight fights before that, and he's been finished 8 times total. Both of these guys have a negative striking differential, but Schnell gets hit twice as often as Morales. All of that data points to exactly what you're saying here. The guy's a legend, but his chin is likely gone.
Yeah, it's completely gone. And as I said, Morales he was cut from the UFC already, and he came back and won the Ultimate Fighter. And his comeback story has been quite good because you've seen him adjust his game. He was like he didn't rely as much on his wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, he's a wrestling coach. He's an instructor. He trains this, and that's his main shtick. And he's been going to that more. And I think he's been going to that more. And you can see that it's leveled up his game,
Yeah.
and the UFC gave him another chance because they've seen that he's leveled up his game. Like he knows his best path to victory, and he knows how to enforce it now. Which, it sounds easy, but a lot of fighters don't do that. They don't go for their best path to victory in fights. They kind of make it harder for themselves.
Yes.
So Morales, he's going to push takedowns, and on the feet, I think he can sleep match Schnell as well because anyone can. Anyone can sleep match it. Like, unfortunately, that's what it is. And I just think he's gonna push takedowns. He's gonna get the back. He's gonna choke him out. But if he doesn't, he can finish him on the feet. If he can't find takedowns, some miraculous how, or you can get a positional TKO. I just think there's so many ways for Morales to finish Schnell, and I don't see a big path to victory for Schnell. Unfortunately, I will be rooting for him all bets aside.
Sure.
I want Matt Schnell to win because I think he's a legend. But I think Joseph Morales, the trajectory he's on, the comeback in the UFC, and I think he's gonna roll here, and I think he's gonna finish Matt Schnell, however it goes, whether that's a KO or a submission.
Yeah, so that is actually your official pick on this one too, Paul. And like this is one of those fights too where I question why it's a co-main event, but I like both of these guys' stories for different reasons. I don't think people really understand how hard it is to get back to the UFC after you've been cut by the UFC. That means, as you stated, you've made a ton of significant changes that they've noticed to even allow you that opportunity, and then he fought his way back into the UFC. That can't be discounted, and there's a certain hunger that goes with that, too. I love your pick here to win by finish. I think that odd, as close to even as that gets, is a little surprising given Schnell's recent history. I don't know. Any final thoughts?
His takedown defense against Jimmy Flick as well, who Morales is a better grappler than Jimmy Flick, and Jimmy Flick just would have lost that fight if he doesn't death gas like he does every fight. So, and then he made it look easy against Schnell, and Morales is just a level above. So yeah, I think he's gonna finish Matt Schnell here.
Yeah, I think that's the likely outcome. I mean, as a co-main, it's you always want to see finishes. You always want to see apex finishes. It's fun. So. There's nothing. I just think there's a fight on this card that could possibly be better, but I've been wrong before. So we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Let's keep rolling through here, Paul. On to the next fight, and we have Muslim Salikhov and Uros Medic. Pretty even line on this one. The 41-year-old Salikhov has kind of turned back time, become a little bit ageless. I always find myself rooting for the old guys. But he's the underdog coming into this one. But I think we have very similar thoughts on how this one could go, Paul.
How is the King of Kung Fu the underdog?
That's what I'm saying. How is it possible?
The King of Kung. I love Muslim Salikhov.
I love him too.
He's a legend. But generally, who in their right mind is better than Uros Medic at minus 167? I think
crazy.
It's a horrendous price against maybe anyone in the UFC, honestly. But yeah, Muslim, they both have the exact same path to victory. Like my notes here are like the shortest they've ever been. It's just Medic slight cardio advantage, both bad cardio. Both fighters are hurt or finished in every fight. They don't win by finish. And they're both terrible chins with big power. It's a pretty 50-50 fight, and I honestly think it probably is about as 50-50 as you can get. But I think Muslim Salikhov, I think he's shown more improvements. I think he's beat a better level of competition, and Medic is getting hurt by a lot worse level of competition. I mean, Matthew Semmelsberger and stuff to say the least. Like he's getting hurt and dropped in round one every single time.
Yeah,
and I don't get the difference also between. I don't think the fight not to go the distance is like minus 700, and then Salikhov ML's plus 135, but then his KO's plus 225. It doesn't make sense at all. Like his KO should be like plus 170, plus 180, if that's correct. So, yeah, I think a very 50-50 fight, and fight where it's minus 700 to go the distance, and both of them have glass chins. But I slightly think Salikhov's going to win in this exchange war, so I'm taking Muslim Salikhov plus 225 to win by KO, TKO, or decision. I mean, DQ. And I think he's going to win. I think he's going to win the fight outright as well. So this is a huge price.
I agree with you completely. Just to back up again with a little bit of data, I'm on Tapology right now. Okay, he's 41 years old. I totally understand that, and he's coming in having won 3 straight. 19 months ago, he did go to a split decision. I get it, against Santiago Ponzinibbio, but his last 2 fights
That's a good look.
Yeah, exactly.
Ponzinibbio's a good fighter.
That's what I'm saying. He was still 40 years old at that point. But his last two fights went 42 seconds and 3 minutes and 49 seconds. It's not like he's worn out at 41. You know what I mean? His ring time in the last 19 months is under 5 minutes total. That means he hasn't taken these older guys, they know to train now. They know not to do heavy sparring. We can't speak to that with any certainty, but I absolutely love this pick for him to finish Uros Medic because I just don't think Medic is that good. I've never seen anything from him. He alternates wins and losses, and he's 5-3 in the UFC, and I think he's going to be the latest victim of Salikhov.
The King of Kung Fu.
The King of Kung Fu, baby.
Yeah. Puna Soriano put Medic out. I mean, Bina hurt him. Everyone hurts him. It's like he's 11-3. The experience advantage for Salikhov as well. I get that he's older, but he beat Carlos Leal, who would be a big favorite.
Yeah.
He'd be a favorite against Med tomorrow. Ponzinibbio would probably be a favorite. Like his wins are all higher level as well. He lost to Randy Brown, who's the main event. Nicholas Dalby, who finished Gabriel Bonfim, who's also in the main event. The Leeching the like. I don't know. I think there's level. I don't get the price on him at all. Maybe he proves me wrong, but you know, at the worst case scenario, it's a 50-50 striking fight.
Exactly. And so if you can get those kind of odds on a 50-50 in a fight that almost certainly will not go the distance, you take them all day. You take them all day. Let's move on. Chris Padilla versus the other Bonfim, Ismael Bonfim. Padilla's 3-0 in the UFC. Bonfim lost 2 of his last 3 fights. What do you think here?
Yeah, I mean, Chris Padilla's kind of hard to judge.
Yeah.
I mean, as you can see, like, just look at his finishing odds and look at his decision prop. He's plus 600 to win by KO, plus 600 to win by sub, plus 575 to win by decision. That doesn't tell you like the levels. Like, he's very even. I mean, I don't know what does, but Bonfim, I kind of at one point I thought he was the better Bonfim brother.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've kind of been proven wrong there. I mean, he lost to Benmar Saint Denis, who again, who lost to Poirier, who I think if he doesn't have staff, he still beats Poirier. Like he was putting that on him in round 1, hurt him bad.
He was.
And then the Moicano one, he was walking Moicano down after Moicano almost killed him in round 1. And then, do you know what I mean? Like these are the fighters who Bonfim's losing to. He lost to Nazim Zadikov, who's going to be a ranked fighter, you know, it was the doctor stoppage as well. It's not like he was out in that fight. But then I still think he's got levels to his game where it's just like his losses to people to better than Chris Padilla, and then the people on Padilla's level he's already beat. I mean, that win against Terrence McKinney, you know, that jumping knee was one of the best finishes we've ever seen. Yeah. But then looking at Chris Padilla, he was like 9-4 getting finished from the regional scene. You know what I mean? Like, he's came in the UFC, and fair enough, he's 3-0 in the UFC now, and he has some good wins. The Jai Herbert fight, I bet Jai Herbert, which I kind of regret looking back, but at the same time, it's like, if Padilla wasn't getting these nothing takedowns at some point, I think Herbert was beating him up a lot of the time on the feet, and I think Bonfim can kind of just get top time, but he also could just get some he can probably win the striking exchanges as well. I think -190 is fine, but no real strong opinions on this fight, honestly.
Yeah, that's sort of where I landed as well, too. Originally, I was looking at Padilla as a dog, but I don't trust him in that sense. I just haven't seen enough consistency from him. Will I be surprised if he wins as an underdog here? No, I won't. But will I bet on it? I probably also will not do that because I just don't feel like I just don't trust him. I don't mean like that's not a mark on his character. I mean, I don't trust him as a fighter because he's going against someone else who I have a very mixed opinion on, like yourself. Like you said, at one point, I think a lot of people probably thought he might have been the better Bonfim. That's been proven wrong, but he's still a very capable fighter. I think these odds are fair, but you see enough here. The confusion of the people setting these lines too. The odds on Padilla for all the various different wins, they're all very, very high. And that just means they kind of just don't know what's going to happen. So your official play on this one is to pass?
Yeah, I'd be picking Bonfim to win if people wanted to add something to that. I think it'll probably be decision as well. I wouldn't expect this to be a crazy fight, but Padilla can be pretty dynamic. He landed I think it was a spin elbow or something against Rong Zhu that ended up getting a doctor's decision. Like, he can throw some dynamic things, and so can Bonfim, but just completely off topic. Bonfim's build is just weird. I don't know if you see him in the other. He just doesn't look like he's made for the weight class. He looks kind of like I don't want to throw like his gut looks insane. I mean, we know what gives that look, but yeah, weird dynamics going in this into this one. I'd rather pass.
Yeah, I think it's a pass for me as well too. Let's move into the last fight here really quickly, Paul. Christian, Leroy, Duncan, and Marco Tulio. This is the fight I wrote about in the Betting Weekly Insider. I'd like to hear your thoughts first, if you have any.
Yeah, I think Marco Tulio is one of the better prospects in this division. Again, the small cages, Duncan kind of likes to push people up against the cage and cut people off and land up against the fence, which I think in the smaller cages you may be able to do. But Tulio doesn't walk back often. He's gonna meet him. He's gonna meet him to every punch, and he kind of just is there to get hit whilst also trying to kill you.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of good for the Apex.
Yes.
Obviously, Duncan, dynamic strike guy, he can throw head kicks, some spinning stuff, and I don't think he has the flash knockout power, but with Tulio always coming in and like he's always looking for that. I think the counters are going to be there for Duncan all night, and he can probably, if he's going to win, I think he could probably land something when Tulio's throwing like he's just going balls to the wall, kind of throwing stuff, and I think Duncan can land something when Tulio's coming in. But I also think Tulio can just he hits hard, and I think he could sleep Duncan. So I think this is honestly, if I was going to pick a side at the current odds, I'd probably bet Duncan at plus 150. But I think again, I think that's just because it's wide. But I'd be picking Tulio to win. I think it's going to be a close fight, and I think any one of them could probably finish the other one.
Yeah, and so in my article this week, you said a lot of the things that I basically wrote about on this fight. I don't think it's bad that Tulio is favored here, but I think the odds are a bit too wide to bite on. So what I essentially did with this one was I went to the math, and as you say, they are fighting in a small octagon. I don't think Christian Leroy Duncan has like the hand power to finish someone, but he's so good with like knees, and he'll throw a spinning back elbow in there and stuff, and he can catch Tulio coming in, as you say, and then Tulio has all of that power. Now, to be very clear, CLD has not been finished, but everyone gets finished at some point, right? So what I looked at was, and here's the data straight from my article. You can read this and more in the Betting Weekly newsletter we mentioned earlier. 64% of Duncan's fights have ended by KO, TKO, DQ, and 80% of Tulio's fights. So I just went with the math here, and my personal pick on this was for this fight to end that way from either man, and it was plus 110. And I mean, you're taking a bit of a risk with CLD having never been finished, but to me, the math decides this one. I made an official play on that one, and I'm not sure if you were able to get an official play on here.
I wasn't, but at the end of the day, I think being in the Apex is also just huge for this. Yes. I know we've said it a lot, but this is kind of a dynamic you have to look at. Like, it is when you're someone like Duncan who likes cutting off the cage and you like beating people up against the cage, but you also, we saw in his fight against Pulev, he'll throw a leg kick and he'll move away. You can't move that much. Right. You know, like your movement's restricted. You can't go circle around the octagon like he does, kind of bounces around the octagon. Like Tulio's going to be there and he's going to be meeting you with every punches. And if you're trying to move around like you normally do, you're going to find yourself up against the cage, and you do not want to do that against Tulio. And then same thing with Tulio. If he's not taking the front foot, and even if he is, he leaves himself so open. Obviously, we haven't seen him in that much trouble in the UFC, but Duncan, crazy dynamic, and he can kind of land anything. So I wouldn't be surprised if Duncan landed something to put him out, but I wouldn't also be surprised if Tulio did, because I think he's got crazy power, and he's probably got grappling upside as well, and power, everything's on his side in that. But I don't know. I think it's probably going to be a striking match, and I can see Duncan winning the minutes on the feet.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? Like he's going to be landing more like the inside low kicks and just like the tippy tap that I can see him at. But then the more dynamic the more powerful strikes coming from Tulio. I think someone's going to catch someone. So yeah, I think your pick. I don't think any of them's going to probably get us up here. So I think plus 110, small cage. Under's already minus 110, and Fight Not to Go decisions like minus 140. So I think it's probably the best bet. That's something I looked at. I didn't end up going with it because I just I think there's too many different ways the fight can go, and I do think Tulio does have a bit of a grappling upside, but I can't be mad at plus 110 on the fight to win KO when, as you said, all the dynamics that are already there.
Into what you just said, so the viewers know, CLD has won a fight by submission, I believe, but the grappling dynamics of Tulio should negate that as a possibility, which is why I ruled it out from my pick. So you weren't able to find anything official on this fight, but I know you're going to put pizza money on my bet. I know how you work.
Yeah, something. I'll probably have something.
Well,
Tulio around 2K or something.
It's going to be exactly. Look for something like that. If you're at home and you're watching this and you have a favorite in your head in this fight, look for something like that as well. If you want to look for a longer odd on something. Okay, Paul. Well, UFC Vegas 111. That's the wrap on the main card picks for this week. Obviously, looking ahead to Madison Square Garden, one of the biggest annual cards of the year. We'll have a great show for that the following week. But before we get going, do you want to quickly recap your 3 picks for this week's card?
Yeah, it's on the big 3 fights of the night, the co-main, the featured, and the main event. So we have the over on the main event between Randy Brown and Bonfim, over 2.5, minus 129. We have Joseph Morales to win by finish in the co-main, and then we have Muslim Salikhov at a big price of plus 225 to win by KO. Also, something I haven't really talked to Cal about, but we know that the Ricky Simon versus Barcelos fight was meant to be on the main card. I was looking at that quite a bit. I'm not going to make this an official pick, but I think Ricky Simon just to win that fight's a pretty good look. I think he's got the wrestling upside. He's going to be winning the minutes on the feet. He's got power. He's got better cardio. And Barcelos is kind of like fraud checking these young studs, but so is Ricky Simon. And I think Simon's probably is at a better place in his career than Barcelos. I think it's kind of the nightmare matchup for Barcelos, honestly.
Yeah.
So I think Ricky Simon's minus 145-ish, minus 150, and I think that's a good enough price. And we've been slamming these prelim picks. I think we've made 5, and all 5 of them have won on the prelim picks across the shows. So yeah, that would be my one. If that was on the main card, I was going to make it official, but I don't know what the current line is. I think it might have took some steam, but Ricky Simon to win, I think that's something you can add to some of these bets that we've mentioned on the Today Show anyways.
Yeah, if you're interested in that one, I would lock it in now is all I will say, because I also agree with that pick, and that's also a prelim fight. Do not miss that one. Like, that's Ricky Simon. He's worth the hype that they put on him right now. Any final thoughts?
No, I think we've obviously Apex ones, he gets a bit of a bad rep, but I don't know, I'm going to sound like a broken drum here, but the small cage changes so much.
It does.
Like it does with the striking, more finishes. You know, it's the grappling, just you're up against the cage and everything. You know, I don't know. There's going to be more finishes than normal. I think we've got a fun week here, and then we've got one of the weeks of the year next week. So it's a good time to be a UFC fan.
It really, really is. On behalf of Paul Hughes, my name is Kyle Andrew. You've just watched Betting Weekly Fight Life, brought to you by the Bet Rivers Network. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for watching Betting Weekly Fight Life on the Bet Rivers Network.